But this one's a bit special because this was Umberto Maglioli's car. So he broke it about 50 years ago and I'm fixing it. So, another Mistral coupe, also a 68, 4 litre, but this one's a bit special because this was Umberto Maglioli's car. So, Umberto, famous Italian racing driver, prolific race winner, bought this in 68. It was exported to Venezuela, to Caracas, and eventually made its way up to California, I think after he owned it. And subsequently then went to Australia where my client bought it and he shipped it here for me to restore. So it's a big job, but a very worthy car. Maserati themselves are very excited that it still exists. I'll tell you a bit more about Maglioli later, but let's have a good look at what we've got to do. There's plenty to do on it. One of the early issues that we noticed when it first came in was that the rear lights didn't seem to line up, and you can see there they don't. We'll have a look at the other car and see what they look like on that, but yeah, it was that's just the sort of a little bit of a clue as to what we might have found. Anyway, let's have a look at some other stuff on it. So this one's about all right, looks pretty good really, but once the paint come off we started to see what was underneath and then why that one seemed to be, you know, so out of line, which as we can see now, this has had a bit let in. So this is another panel entirely. There's some welding around here, which is a bit iffy. Then we seem to have some rivets in here, which I've yet got to unpick and see what we got. Then we've got some pop rivets in here, and again up here. And yeah, so pretty obvious why that didn't fit properly. So it can be sort of, there's a bit of movement on here and it could be moved around, but it just wasn't sitting right. So that's what we had to do, get the thing off and see what we had. So it was a bit of a shock, this one, as to quite how bad things were underneath it. But well, it pays not to be too surprised when you start taking paint off and find, you know, they're all a bit of an iffy thing. But it's sort of leading into the sort of life this car must have had. Now, I did say he was a racing driver. It didn't mean he didn't have a few offs, though, does it? So I suspect that's what's happened. It's had a bit of a prang or something. But anyway, so yeah, you can see the sort of, you know, extent of this plate through here. Underneath here, we got some sort of strengthener plates let in, and then they've sort of been pop riveted on. There's some old gobby weld on there. This is all aluminium, so obviously, you know, aluminium welding is appropriate, which isn't easy, which might be telling of what's been going on. So there, we get an idea, and there's a weld through here. So once underneath that, we've got even more to see, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. Let's put this down. So this wing's, you know, looks quite reasonable. We've got some repairs in it and so on. And funny enough, this is a thing that differs on the 4 litres. This swage here is just a 4 litre thing. On the 3.7s, it's flat across here. This is where the bumper recesses into it. But this wing itself doesn't look too bad. It's sort of, you know, it's come up quite nicely. Got something going on here, a few dings and dents here, but this didn't look too bad. A bit of damage in here, but yeah, it's fairly good. But then we get to this bit here and we got some nastiness going on here. What's this weld in here, some pop rivets, and that all ties in with this here on this, you know, where we're going into this rear panel. So that was, yeah, you know, we sort of telling that we got something going on, which we sort of knew about. And if we come around the back to the other side, we can see some real horrors. So this panel pop riveted on here, and you can see how thick this is, this Bondo. So that, the whole car was that fat, with that thick, with it all over it, and this was the shape of it, all like this underneath it. So it had the swage lines sort of blocked into it. So this line that runs the length of here, that runs all the way along here, was just made in the Bondo, you know, to create it. It was just blocked down, covered in it. And then, you know, so something horrendous has been going on here with the car. So we've got that accident damage on the back, then we've got this. Now we've also got problems in here, some welds in here. This has been really got at this, and you see sort of gouge marks of a grinder in it. You know, it's really quite nasty. But what sort of started to look, what is interesting is there's these welds through here. So you've got a line of weld all the way through here, runs all the way up into here, and down through there. And again, it's sort of down here, you've got this line of weld through it there. And then you can see the nice swage in it, which we were talking about on the other side. So I think that was a panel that someone's let in. Now, whether they made that or not, or bought in a panel and then just cut a bit of it out and let in, I don't know. But we'll take this clip off in a minute and we'll have a proper look underneath. Because we've got corresponding damage under here. So, you know, obviously what's happened to the outside, there's going to be problems inside as well. And you can see these sort of pepper marks here. You know, this is completely the wrong shape through here. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to make a new rear wing for this. There's nothing. I'll salvage this bit, which is where all the fuel filler area is, but the rest of this is going to have to be. I'm going to have to make a new rear panel. I might be able to save half of it, this half, and make the other half, or I might just make a whole new panel. The far wing, I'm hoping to save. So, you know, we'll see. But yeah. So right, let's unclip it and have a look and see what we got. Right, with that off, we can have a good look at what's going on underneath. And you know, I said we had something going on here. Well, we can see with it uncovered, there's something going on here. We've got all these little dents in here, and these bits that sort of push through, almost look like bullet holes, like someone shot up through it. But what I suspect is they pushed through here to then beat that outer panel out, because there's something going on with it where it, you know, had some sort of damage or knocking it out. So that you know, nothing too much going on here. This looks about the right shape. This is sort of factory, apart from these dents here. Looks pretty good. The B post has got the original spot welds in it. We've got some rust to deal with down here. You know, what do you expect? You're gonna have some rust, aren't you? The fuel tanks go in here, and here's the sort of outer tank strap. That's where your bumper bracket goes onto. But then we're starting to have some issues in here, which we'll look at properly in a minute when I get the rear clip off. But yeah, something else, yeah, we've got some real things going on in here. Right, so let's get this rear clip off. Now that's the joy of aluminium bodywork. It's nice and light, you see, which is why they build them like this in the first place. Right, so there's our rear clip off, and now we can see a bit more what's going on. So yeah, that tank strap looks nice and straight, and if you look at the one this side, it's all over the place. So something's been going on that side. Well, we knew that, didn't we? Because we looked at the outside of that. And then we've got this panel here, was missing here. We haven't even got it there. And then that's all nice and straight across there. And then look at this all pushed up in here. So something's gone on here. It's had a bit of a shunt in the back here. The fuel tanks sit in here, and they have a sort of swage that goes round and where they join. And you can see this bruise in there. Well, that's where the tank's shoved forwards and gone into it. So we've had a lot of issues going on here. And this, you know, I sort of knew we were going to have some stuff here, but not quite this extent. But when we look at this area, it's very damaged. So we can see all this is all split here and so on, and then, you know, all crinkled through here. Well, this actually had a plate welded over it, which has started to rust away. So you couldn't see that was all misshapen originally. When you opened the boot up, it all looked quite nice. This was sort of covered over like that, but you can see, look, great big split in there and so on. Well, you know, that's why it's on the jig, because I was worried, you know, that it wasn't going to be lined up. So if we look at this bumper iron, see this plate's been let in there? Well, that's completely, you know, broken through there, and then they sort of wedged that in there to try and, you know, sort it out. So if we look at the other side, nothing like that. So you can see what we should be having. So, yeah, and you can see the shape in here. What we've really, I mean, all right, we've got rust repairs to do, but you can see it's all straight and nice. So yeah, that's not good. But then we move around to this area where we had all those problems. Well, look how much more damage there is in this lot. You know, it's really nasty compared to the other side. And all this is all crinkled up. You know, it's all been crushed in. This is all bent. Look at the sort of bends in that. And say this lot, you know, there's been a lot of stuff going on in here. So we've got an impact there, and then we've got a problem on this side. So all through here has all been beaten about and so on, which is, you know, what we're sort of expecting to find. Then we get onto this B post area. We've got a weld through here, and all the spot welds have been drilled out. See, they've drilled them out, and sort of, then here's some little globs of MIG weld, and there's a tiny bit of gas weld they put there. So they've sort of taken this part off, and then we've got a weld through here, which is where it would join anyway. But you can see all these little, you know, where the spot welds have been drilled out, and we've got these little bits of gas weld let in. And then we come up to here, and then we've got a weld through there, which meets that one. So this whole B post has been removed at some point, and then let back in. And then we've got some more bits of sort of nasty weld in here. This is to do with rust repairs, I suspect, because they've been sort of filling it up with MIG weld. But yeah, so there's been a fair bit going on in here, and then we got our rust to deal with. But, you know, we got some accident damage as well. So there's quite a lot going on in this car. And say, which is exactly why it's on this select jig, so that I can check it to get it true, and then we can straighten it as required, and then I can deal with all these areas, you know, one at a time, as it were. So let's have a look at the select jig and see if it fits or not, because that's what it's on here for. Right, so the brackets with the select, it all has to line up. What happens with these select jigs is that when you've set a car up on it, what you normally do is you get a map off select, and that shows you where to put these towers and these bits correspondingly. So it's all numbered, and they give you a plan, you put it all on there, and then you hire the brackets off them, or you buy the brackets off them, and then you bolt your brackets on, and then you drop your car down onto, you know, your towers and put your pins in, and everything should line up. And where it doesn't line up, you know, is where you've got issues. But, you know, I made 850 of these, and Select have never made brackets for it, and they've never made a map for it either. Now, if you're doing a Porsche 356 or a Porsche 911 or various things like that, you know, you can get all this stuff. They'd make all the brackets, everything's doable, but not Maserati. So I've had to sort of work it out for myself. So basically what I've done is I've come up with a, you know, with an idea of where to put these towers, you know, and so on. And then I've had to make my brackets up. Now, all the brackets have to be mirrors of one another and have to be the same. So it's going to be the same height, and it has to be a mirror image for the other side. So I've made them. Now, I took this as a datum, the front axle. I thought we'd start there and work backwards and see what we got. So I made these two, then I made the next two. So those go, that's the front shock tower. You can see that goes on there. So your top arm, suspension arm, and goes onto this bracket behind here, and the front shock absorber goes there. So it's angled up because, of course, that would tip in that direction, which would allow you to give your caster angle on your stub axle. So yeah, started there, then move on to the next set, and these are bolted onto the front mount for the rear spring. So that gives us that point, and they're true. They're, you know, all lines up. Again, a mirror image to the other side, all equalised. Everything's perfect. So we're good to there, and then we go to the very back, and we start having issues, which is where we thought we'd have issues, which is here, which we'll look at in detail in a minute, because I'm still in the point of constructing this bracket. So we can look at making one in a minute, can't we? But yeah, that's. But that's what we're expecting, isn't it? Because this is where we've had this big shunt. It's pretty obvious it's going to be out of line here. And the other telling thing with these Maseratis is all box sections chassis. This is all, you know, quite nice stuff. And then it gets into the back here, and it's actually just fabricated. So it's more like a monocoque chassis. So it's just sheet steel fabricated up and so on. And you've got to, you know, you're asking a lot where it goes over the axle there. You know, and that's where it's gone. Now it does have a bracket that goes across here, but that's actually bent as well, which is again sort of telling of what we're going to find, which I knew about. So yeah, okay. So we'll have a look at that in detail now. So brackets, as I said, I had to make them, and they've got to be mirror images. So you can see what we got. That one's got to mirror that one. Effectively, that's what we, you know, have to end up with. So you need to equalise it so you end up in the right place. When I started at the beginning, and then you've got to come to the back, and then of course if they're mirrors all the way through and it's all parallel, it should all line up, which was the plan. So that's that. So that's what we got. And then you put your pins in here, so you get it. So you, and obviously height as well has got to be critical. So these are the same length, and then I've brought them up to the bottom of here, and then you pin them like that. So that one's done, and that's sorted, and that fits nicely. And then this one doesn't line up, because obviously the car's wrong. But I'll just show you what we're doing. So effectively we got a bit of bar. They're fairly simple really, but you know, they have to be about right. Well, more than about right. About right won't really do it, will it? So yeah, so we've got a bit of bar like that. Centralise it in the lathe, drill and tap, you know, take a bolt for there, and then here's our corresponding bracket. So we have to drill through here. This is where your rear shackle mount goes, and then that bolts onto the top of here. So that will bolt through there like that, goes onto here, gives us that. Just wind that up quickly. And then I'll just sort of recess these in with the mill, just so they sit down nicely and look, you know, look about right, don't they? So they look quite nice. They look the job, and you can see that's a mirror of that one. And then so this one, we need to get the, we need to make that hole in it, don't we? So we need to make corresponding hole to go in there, so that we end up with the right height. So we just stick that on the mill and sort that out, and then we can try it on the car and we'll see what we got. So that's the little job we'll do now. Oh, and then we have some a little spacer goes up against the chassis there, and then that bolts onto that shackle pin like that, doesn't it? Or correspondingly, that'll go like that. So I just turned up a little bush, you know, to just finish that off. But there we are. So let's go and stick this on the mill, sort that hole out, and then we can try it on the car and see what we got and see how lined up we are, see if it's straight or not, which, spoiler alert, it's not. We knew that, didn't we? Right, but see how bad it is, that's the point, isn't it? To the mill then. Okay. Right, let's get a hold in this. We need to get it in about the right place. More than about, as I said, we need to get it just right. So let's get that sorted out. Okay. Right, there we go. Here's our pin. Draw a hole. Let's get this in. Right, anyway, you see what we got. That's the plan. Now we need a pin to pop in there. So that should come up to the level there. And then we pop a pin in. A bit tight, but that's all right. But that's what we're looking at. So it'll be a mirror of that. So let's put them on the car. Right, that'll do. Let's have a look at the other side, which is where I think we're going to have some real issues. So spacer, and then there's our bracket. Now remember that goes in from above there, doesn't it, like that? Let's get this done up and see what we got. So, I'm not doing that like that side because I know it's going to have an issue because I've already been here, but I'm just going to give an idea, just to sort of show what we're trying to do. So we want to get this bolted on, and then we can see whether that lines up. What should happen is we push that up and that should pop straight through there, and that pin should go in there, shouldn't it, if it all lines up, which, yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Okay, so that pops in there, doesn't it? And then we'll rise this up, and that should line up with that hole, shouldn't it? But look how far out we are. So we're quite a way out here, aren't we? So it's nowhere near going in there. But let's just disregard that for a minute and push it all the way up and see how far out we are on our pin. So if we come back out, look, it's nowhere near, is it? Look, that's to get the pin up to the hole. We should be that hole there. This should be level with the bottom of there. Look, that's nothing like it, is it? So we're nowhere near. So let's just undo this a touch, just to see how far out we are. So if we did that, just pop that up there like that, out the way, to allow this to rise up so we can put a pin in. So if we went up to there, that would be about there. So look how far out we are. We're miles out, aren't we? Right, okay, let's get that pin. There it is. Right, let's pop that pin in and then we'll see, won't we? So we're saying that should be like that, and it's obviously nowhere near it, so that's where our pin wants to go, about like that, doesn't it? So look, we can see we're nothing like it, are we? We're quite a way out on all of this, which is what we knew. So what we learnt from there is we're that's gone that way. It's pushed forwards there, isn't it? This is because this won't go on, so it's gone in that way, which is what we think because it's been pushed from the back here, and it's also, this has come down. But if you think about it, that shape over the axle there, you know, where that sort of goes over where the axle would be, well, if you push that in there, it's going to twist it down, isn't it? It's going to flex it that way. So as it goes forwards, it's going to go down. So that's exactly what you'd expect to see. So somehow we've got to straighten that out. So we're going to have to give it a bit of a pull. But we'll have a look at that in a minute. I think we should have a look at this bracket that goes across and have a look at that, because that's something else that's interesting to show how far out it is. So, where do we put that? Go and find it now, won't I? Yeah, here we are. Right. So, there we are. This straddles the bottom of this axle piece here to strengthen it up. So that bolts on like that, there, and bolts on here. And that's how it sort of sits underneath the axle there. And your back axle goes there. So that ties these two pieces together. Now, this is slightly misshapen as well, which is telling something. But, you know, if that's done that, what we're saying is that through here, it's done that, hasn't it? This is pushed forwards, so it's tightened that up. It's effectively tightened that up. But we've got damage in here we can feel. We've got damage through there as well. That's not flat anymore, which all ties in with what I'm saying. And if we look at this, we've got the same, you know, it shows us what's going on. So if we look at this on the bench here, so we've got this sort of kink, it's kinked in there, it's bulged out here. So that has sort of, it's tried to narrow it, hasn't it? But also if we look at this one, which is off of the other car, which is as it should be, you can see how far out of line it is. Look, now that's all the way over there. Now that dent's just where the back axle rests on it, so don't worry about that. But look, that's miles out, isn't it? That's all, you know, nothing like it, is it? So, and if we take the sort of points, you know, from there, you can see it's sort of shorter as well. But it's become shorter where it's bent it. So we've got to sort all that out. So that's telling. That's another thing, you know, another thing that's going on. Now we don't want that on there whilst we're trying to pull it straight. But we can do this on its own. We can sort of, you know, we can clamp that down and probably push that down there and straighten that out there. We might need to use some heat on it. We'll see. But anyway, that can be fixed. But we've got to fix this first, haven't we? And get that select bracket to line up. So that's, I think, our next job. And then we've got all sorts of other repairs to do in there, but you know, we want it to be straight and true before we start mucking about, you know, before I start fabricating stuff up for the back of it. I want to make sure that the actual thing sits and it's actually where it should be. So in light of that, to give us something to get again, if we look at the distance between here and here, from one side of the car to the other, you know, that'll have closed up. Well, there we are, that has closed up, you can see, because I've checked this, used this on the other car, on the other side. So, you know, we're a fair bit out there. You know, I've measured that, so we got 247 mil between there and there, going parallel. I went to the other side, and we've got, what have we got on this one? Need light on that, can't see. That's that. Them carrots, isn't it, again? Not even enough carrots. Can't see in the dark. So 247, and this side is 255. So we've closed up a bit, haven't we? About 8 mil. So 8 millimeters, which is about what we're, you know, when you transfer back into this bracket, it's a bit more than that, but that will happen. But that's what we're sort of looking at, which is probably what we got, you know, gives us a bit of an idea here, doesn't it? So yeah, we have got an issue here, haven't we? So we're going to have to pull that, and we're going to have to work out how to pull it. So that's the next job. Right, so we've got some braze on here, which is probably to do with where all this was done. You know, that's the way they've been, you know, they've let this piece in. So now I've just made this up, and the plan is I thought we'll weld this on here, weld it across there, down there, and then we'll use this to pull it, because we want to sort of pull here. We don't want to pull on that bit, because we'll bend that pin. So I'm going to try and pull this out a bit, and I might use the porta power underneath as well. But yeah, so the idea is get a weld round there. And then what else is interesting is this panel here, this sort of triangulation piece. Again, this is sort of made to strengthen the back up, but this is all rippled. When you run your hand along it, you won't be able to film it very easily, but basically when I run my hand across this, it's all rippled. It's all rippled up and down, and so that's sort of showing that it's holding done that, you know, whereas the other side's all straight and nice. Let me I'll tell you, I'll put a straight edge on it and see if with a bit of light, if we can't get to see what's going on. Yeah, you can sort of see. Can you see the gaps in there? See the gaps between you know, where it's sort of, yeah, so it's all rippled along there. So that's all buckled. And then also in here, there's sort of all dents, isn't it? It all looks a bit iffy, doesn't it? But it's sort of, there's a swage there, little line through there. So again, that's sort of, you know, we think that's all sort of got pushed in here, you see? So it's all a gap there. So it's all sort of gone crunched in like that and pushed in the whole back, which has gone down and forwards, which is what we're seeing on our jig, isn't it? You know, it's exactly what we're seeing. So that's what we're trying to fix before we can fix the rest of it. Okay, let's get the welder out. We'll get that stuck on there somehow. Right, we'll get the dozer on it. That's what that bracket's for. So the plan was to put that bracket on there, and then that will give me somewhere to pull on. So if we get this in, and then we'll use this. Now, this is actually a black hawk. It's not really a select one, but it will do. It'll be fine for what we're doing. So, right. So we want to put a shackle on there. That was the plan. Put that on there. That's our plan, is to pull that, and hopefully we'll get what we want. But anyway, right, let's see if that's long enough. Okay, right, so that's our setup there. That's it. Right, and let's lock the foot in. And now that will be putting on that end. So let's get round here where I can see what's happening. See what happens. That's pulling it. You're definitely moving it. Oops. Okay, what I think I'll do, I'll strap that. I'm going to strap that to the leg. Right, let's have another go. Well, that's nearly there, but obviously it's under spring tension, so it will spring back. See? So we'd have to pull that past there, which I think we want a bit of help. We want the porta power in there as well. But yeah. Right. Where's that light gone? So, if I give that a pull, you can see how that's lining up, how that moves across there. so we're nearly there. Look, that's about it. And then we're almost at the level, we're not quite. So you've got, you know, we're very nearly there already. But as I let the tension off, it springs back. So obviously we've got to push it past that point. So, and you can hear it, you know, as it moves back. But I think we'll get the porta power out and we'll try and force that open across that part where it goes over the axle at the same time as pulling here. And I think we're getting nearer to it. Yeah, we'll see. Well, let's have a go at that and see what we get. But it's encouraging. It's a good start. Right, so I've set this one up, put the porta power in here, I welded a bracket on here so that it will try and hold it. We're trying to force it up here, which this is on a sort of, this box section chassis that I said they've sort of, you know, they make. So it goes from this box section into effectively sheet steel. And then we're, you know, by pushing on here, because this I think is all as it should be. It's here where it's, you know, because that's all straight there. This is where it's kinked down. So if I can push it here at the same time as pulling it there, I'm hoping it's going to stretch it all out and that will start to get rid of some of that. You can see where it's split there as well, but you know, we can weld that up later on. But that's the idea, is just, you know, so by putting this force on there, we're trying to open this up at the same time as pulling there, and that's, you know, what we're trying to get anyway. But it's all a bit of a, you know, it's trial and error, this sort of stuff. It's not an exact science. So if I push on that, you hear something starting to happen, and you can see it's moving. Right, that's the wood breaking, that's all right. It's not the actual car snapping in half. Right, and I've moved this one up on the back here to try and pull upwards a bit, because we were pulling just straight before, which will try, hopefully get us, you know, sort this business out. So even now we're in almost at height. See, our hole nearly lines up, so we're almost there already, although we're not quite in the right place with our pin yet. But anyway, let's see what we get. And I'd say it's all under tension, isn't it? So, you know, we can't really just you know, we can't just rely on it, because it will be sprung, won't it? Well, that's looking a lot better. Yeah, you see that all sort of sits there. We'd get our pin in. We won't quite get our bolt in. If anything, we've gone a bit high. But as I say, it's all going to be under spring tension at the minute. So that, it's not quite going to go in there yet. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take this out. As you know, I made them spacers up. I made these up, didn't I? Now, it might be that this is slightly, you know, isn't quite in the right plane anyway. So I think relying on that spacer might be a bit too much. So, see, that would actually start in there. So you can see we were all right there. So between that starting in there and that pin would go in, you see, so that would all work. But, you know, it's all under tension, isn't it? We've got to pull it past this point so that when it creeps back, it sits back into the right place. So we can't, you know, that's not quite enough yet. So we'll just try a bit more. I'm going to pull it a bit further. and I'll give it a bit more on that one. And that's straightening out. See, that's almost flat there. We've got rid of a lot of that already, which is what we're trying to do. We haven't got rid of these ripples in here, but I don't think they'll go quite as easy as that. But anyway, we're under a lot of tension, so we're not gonna, you know, we've got to be a bit careful with this at the minute. So we've sort of gone a bit past where we wanted to be, and we've gone a bit higher than we need to be, which is exactly what we're going to probably have to do. You know, we're going to have to pull it past where we want it. The thing to do is not pull it too far, so it won't go back. Yeah, it's breaking that wood up, isn't it? But that doesn't matter. That wood's it's not vital, that bit of wood, is it? That's a bit of kindling, really, isn't it? You can get the log burner going. I bet there'll be a few log burners going, weren't there, this weekend, trying to burn down all them trees that fell over in the storm, but there we are. Anyway, shouldn't be burning it yet, it's not seasoned, is it? Right, let's let this tension off of this one. See how much it creeps back. And we'll let a bit of tension off this one. See, so it's all creeping back, isn't it? It's all under tension. It's remarkable, isn't it, how much energy there is in there. But yeah, that's you know, it's a lot nearer. We're nearly there. So it's a lot better. It's not quite there yet, but it's nearly there. Let that off too much. There we are. Yeah, you see, so I've welded a bracket on here to hold it. You see, that's sort of folded back up down again now. So we're going to have to go a fair bit past that to get that right, aren't we? Let's try and get this back on here. Right. Right, let's get that back in there, come on. Right, okay, that should be all right a minute. Right, let's try and get this, another pull, get it past its tension point. Crushing that wood up, isn't it? And it's starting to buckle the end of that piece, but we can't really worry about that. I can straighten some of that later. That sort of, I'm not so worried about that. Right, gone a long way past now. So let's hope that that creeps back about where we want it. Right. It's getting there. If anything, that's probably a bit too far. Let's just see. Hold on, let's get a little bit more on that. Right. No, we're not quite there. Still need a bit more on it. Right. Okay, let's give it a bit more. See how much it moves though. Right, some on that and then some on this one. It's starting to open that split up a bit there, isn't it, I think? But you can see it's flattened that out. That's all flat now. So that's what we're trying to gain. But whether it will stay back there, I don't know. So a bit of time. Right, let's let this one back. See how much it moves? Look at that. It's remarkable, isn't it? But that's not coming back in. That's not so bad. And it's getting rid of them. And that is what we're trying to achieve, really, isn't it? Oh, look at that. Is that under tension still? It still is, but that's almost perfect. Let's just see. No, you see, that's still under tension there. Let's see what it gives us. So nearly there. So nearly there. Right, let's give it a bit more. We're getting there. I mean, that's encouraging. Right. Okay. Wow. That popped straight in. So, is there more tension on that? Right. Okay, tension's off of that one. Trouble is, it falls out, doesn't it, this one? But let's just try and... Oh, yeah, you see, right, okay, so we know it's about to fall out, so we know it's got virtually no tension on it. Let's just take the slack up so it doesn't fall out. It's still got a kink in there, but it's better than it was. Shame, because when it's really pulled, it all went out there, didn't it? But there we go. That's that pin out. That's still got a bit of a... That was in there nicely. Let's just... Yeah, you see, just with the tiniest bit of tension, that was sitting there nicely. So we're so nearly there. That'll pop straight in there like that. That starts nicely. And our pin goes straight in. So we've pretty much taken that out. A few little final little bits and tweaking, I think, and we're going to get that about right. So I'm quite pleased with that. And it's got a lot of that out. It's not quite right yet. I want to get some more of this. I want to get this. I want to try and get that flatter in there, so we get that. But it's a lot better. And we've still got buckles in here, but I don't think they'll come out of there. But we're getting it so it lines up. So that's the first sort of thing. If we can get that to line up about right, and that will sit in, then we've got that back up and pulled it out. And then I can do all these repairs, you know, but it's got to be, that's got to be straight. That's got to be in its correct bit. So that ain't too bad, is it? So Umberto will be pleased, won't he? He broke it about 50 years ago and I'm fixing it. But there we are. yeah, I think that's a success. And I think that's time to call it a day, innit? Stop when you're quick in your head, they say, don't you? Before I bugger anything else up, let's go home. Well, I think that's great. I'm really, really pleased. So I'll finesse that a little bit more. And then next episode, we'll be doing some more. And hopefully I can sort of say, I've just got that just right. So there we are. That's enough of that. Good night. And hope no trees fall on you, eh?